Welcome back, viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in. And on this channel, I do post content, social work content. So stay tuned and hear what I have to deliver to you today. Thank you so much. If you are new to the channel, please do subscribe, hit the notification bell so that when I post, you'll be the first person to know. My name is Patrick Tawia Matope. And the purpose why I post these videos or I share this information is because I know that somebody else will learn out there. And for me to be where I am, other people also invested in me and took out their time to be able to share information, nuggets, and so forth with me. And I am where I am today. Today's video, I'm just going to talk to you about 10 tips on how you can engage and work well with difficult or resistant, parents in children's safeguarding team. I'm currently working in a duty and assessment team, and this will be more or less basically applicable to that setting, but it can be applicable in other settings within social work as well. First and foremost, the only thing I'm going to put is, as well as a disclaimer, is that I don't claim to be a guru, but these are nuggets from my own experiences and obviously my interaction with the colleagues and stuff like that. So I hope, somebody will learn from this basically. Straight off the bat, I'm just going to say it's not easy to work with resistant or difficult, service users or parents. However, you need to be clear exactly what's making them to be more resistant. It's very important for you to establish that. And sometimes I know it can take an emotional toll on you, especially if there is abuse involved. Don't tolerate abuse. If there is abuse involved and you feel maybe it's bordering on racism and stuff like that, you may need to be involving the police and actually report it to the police. As you may know, the police will obviously take action in instances like that. So point number one is you need to be understanding the reasons behind this resistance. Why are these parents so resistant? Sometimes it stems from fear. Sometimes it stems from their past experience of working with social care or with social workers. Sometimes it's this feeling of them being judged. So you need to be understanding as well, why are they resistant, or what's the motive behind, or what's the reason why they're actually so resistant to you. Some parents it could be because they are feeling so overwhelmed. Sometimes they become defensive or distrustful of professionals because of past experiences and stuff like that. So you need to be curious about what's going on. However, don't put a blanket approach to all the cases that you deal with. You need to be taking each and every case with an open mind. Be curious rather than being judgmental, because obviously if you become judgmental, that's where you get that kind of resistance exactly. And get to understand what's driving this level of resistance really. That's point number one. Point number two, you need to be making sure that you are clear, transparent, and honest about what's going on. What is it that we are concerned about? What is it that your local authority is concerned about concerning those children? What needs to change? You need to be clear about that. How can that change be realized? What is it that you want to see happening for that change to happen? Or what does change what should change look like for that particular child? Articulate the child's lived experiences, and explain your role. Why are you involved from the start? Avoid vague and overly complex language that we use as social workers. Make it as clear as possible to them, and set realistic expectations as well, and avoid making promises that you can't. I always say to colleagues, don't make promises that you can't fulfill, or don't make promises on things that it's not your call. Forgive to actually pass for that thing to happen. For example, you can't go into a family and support and actually promise them 50 quid in food vouchers when you know that it's gonna be it depends on a head of service or another manager to approve that to approve that. You can actually say, no, I think I can realize that there is need, but I'm gonna have a conversation with my manager and come back to you, rather than give them promises on things that you can't deliver really. Like I said, you need to set realistic expectations, realistic goals, and avoid making promises that you can't keep. And be honest about the concerns, but also acknowledge the positives which are there, the strengths that you're actually observing. Even before you even visit, there could be strengths that you can actually observe. Okay, if it's the mother who has made this call to the police, that's quite important to acknowledge, and also note that it's actually a positive, it's a strength that she's actually managed to make that call, because not all parents that go through domestic abuse are able, or are actually able to make that call. So it's something that you need to be mindful as well. Point number 3, you need to use a strength-based approach. It links with what I just mentioned now. They are more likely to engage if they feel that you're acknowledging what they are doing well. You need to acknowledge those things that you're doing okay, and don't only focus on the deficits, don't only focus on the negatives, but you also need to highlight what's working well and what small changes. Those small changes could mean a big difference to them, and the fact that you're actually acknowledging them, it may actually mean a lot. They will see that you're actually appreciating what they are doing, even though it's quite small steps, but you need to be appreciating those. And you need to be focusing on those strengths, because that's what you need to be capitalizing on, so that you can actually manage to motivate them to continue to do well. So it's something that you need to be mindful as well. And then point number 4, you need to keep the child at the center of the conversations. You need to keep the child at the center of the conversations. What do I mean by that? I only mean that, as parents may feel the focus is on them rather than the child. So you need to be making sure that, if you're articulating to say, if it's issues to do with substance misuse, talk about the impact that you're actually seeing on the child. What is the child saying about, the behaviors of the parent and all that? So that if you keep it on the, if you keep focusing on the child, some even though the parents may know that whatever they are doing is not okay, they will actually see, because you are talking about how it is impacting on their child. And you need to be redirecting the conversation to what the child is experiencing, rather than just focusing on the adult in the room. Really use open-ended questions. Obviously, for example, what do you think your child needs right now? What do you think is going on with your child? Or what's your hypothesis on why your child is presenting like this? And how do you think your child is feeling? How do you think they would want, what is it that you think your child would want to see you doing, for example? And if appropriate, use some direct work tools to involve the child in to involve the child in your assessment, and make sure that their voice is also articulated as well. Moving on to point number 5. The most important thing is also to make sure that you remain professional and avoid the power struggles. As a social worker, I've got lots of power within you to make some decisions that can change people's lives, but don't abuse your power. Don't abuse your power, because the moment you start doing that, you will face some resistance. You will face this, resistance from some of the parents. Sometimes they may start to try to say something, or to provoke arguments and undermine your authority. You need to stay calm, avoid getting drawn into such kind of arguments, such kind of conversations, and focus on why you are there. Focus on what's going on with the child. Focus on what you are concerned about. Be empathetic, but also be assertive. Those are two different things. To be empathetic doesn't necessarily mean that you're not assertive, but you need to be both. Be empathetic. You can empathize with them, but you need to be assertive, because you are there to articulate on behalf of the child what's going on and what's not working well for the child, for that particular child. You need to acknowledge their feelings. If they are angry, you need to acknowledge their anger, and make sure that don't put yourself at risk. That's the bottom line at the end of the day. Don't put yourself at risk. You need to acknowledge their feelings while maintaining professional boundaries with them. Use neutral language that they can understand. Avoid being judgmental and some confrontational tones, or showing them that you're actually judging them based on what on what they've done. Point number 6, sorry, not 66. Be consistent and follow through. If you have agreed that you're going to follow through on something, be consistent and come back to them with feedback on the things that you've discussed. If it's something that you needed to go and check with a manager or with a colleague, make sure that you go and check and bring back the feedback which they would require. Sometimes the resistance, often increases when parents feel that professionals are inconsistent and they're not open and honest with them, or they are being unreliable. That's one other thing that can also, bring some resistance from the parents. You need to stick to the agreed appointment times and action plans. It's one thing for you to say, I'm coming at 2 o'clock, and then you turn up at 4. Obviously, they will be resistant. They are not going to work with you. You need to be professional in the way you do your things. So you need to be sticking to agreed time scales. If you can't make it, send a text, call, and say, I'm on my way, I'm stuck in traffic, I'm delayed by 15 minutes. They will understand that. Rather than you just being quiet, you said, I'm coming 2 o'clock, and then rock up 15 or 20 past only because you're a social worker and you think you are so important. It doesn't work like that. If you say you will do something, follow through with it. Or if you think you've shared information with them which is not necessarily correct. Correct yourself, call them and say, listen, when I came, I mentioned something like this and this and this, but I don't think I was correct in saying that. I've checked out the information with my colleagues. I've checked out the information with my manager. The correct thing that I should have said is A, B, C, and D. That kind of integrity means a lot to some of these parents that you're working with. It helps to build trust over time as well. Point number 7, use motivational interviewing techniques. It's useful, very, very useful and important in shifting resistance from being a resistant parent to an engaging parent. You need to be mindful of that. You can express empathy, use the I words. I understand this could be difficult for you, but my worry is this and this, my concern is this and this, or our concern is this and this. Roll with the resistance. You feel the social workers don't help, what is it that you think I can actually be of help to you at the moment? Put the ball back in their court and hear their views, even though you've got your own views, even though you've got your own way of seeing things, but hear their views as well. And, think about self-reflection, really. Reflect in terms of, the way you've engaged with them, the way you've actually broached the subject with them. And if there are any changes that you think you can actually, make changes, call, if you need to apologize, there's nothing wrong with you apologizing, talk about it, if you feel that, there are things that they may not necessarily have heard you well with regards to that. Make sure that they feel heard by you rather than feel to be pressured. They feel heard by you rather than rather than them feeling pressured by you. And point number 8, you need to be addressing some cultural and language barriers. How do you address this? If it's a language barrier, make sure you use an interpreter. If it's a cultural issue, ask them, how it works in their culture. They're the masters of their own cultures. They know exactly how things work in their culture. Sometimes, be the learner in the situation, learn from them, and you'll be able to actually know exactly how to articulate such kind of issues when it comes to working with other, clients from the same cultural background or something like that. Some parents may struggle to engage due to language barriers, so, make use of an interpreter or some cultural misunderstandings. And be sensitive to some cultural norms. For example, in some cultures, it's not possible for you to see a female member of the family on their own. They may need somebody else to sit with them. If it is an auntie who is going to sit with this mom, the auntie can sit with the mom, and then you can have a conversation. Or you can go in with a colleague who is a female colleague, and then you can have a conversation. However, you need to be reinforcing, and you need to be mindful that the child's safety is of paramount importance in everything that you are doing in terms of, engaging these families and the parents that you are engaging. You have a plan for non-engagement. So, okay, now that they haven't engaged, what's your plan? Are you going to escalate the case? Make it clear to them that, if there's not going to be a positive engagement from them, the consequence can be that the case can actually escalate from where it is. It may mean that we may think about escalating to think about a statutory plan, because remember, we always want to work with parents on a voluntary basis if it is possible, but if it can't, think about a statutory plan as well. If a parent misses appointments or refuses access, have a clear plan of how that can be tackled or how that can be dealt with under a statutory plan. And document all the attempts that you've made to try to engage them so that you can evidence the need for such a case to escalate. Escalate those concerns if necessary. Involve your line manager, involve your senior practitioner, and consider your legal options as well if it needs legal to intervene. Think about your multi-agents collaboration that needs to be in place as well. For example, if it's a mom with a new baby, maybe she's being overwhelmed by professionals because there's another health visitor going in. Are you thinking about joining with the health visitor when they go in, rather than health visitor go on their own and then you go on your own? Think about those things that can actually lighten the burden or for the parent, and also think about which professional that I can actually, that can support me to actually have a better conversation with this parent. If it is the teacher at school or if it is the school staff, make that happen. Go to the school, have that conversation with the parents while they are at the school as well. Point number 10, be mindful of your threshold document and know when to escalate. If you think you've done your best, but you're not getting any headway and you're still concerned about those children, you have a conversation with your senior practitioner, you have a conversation with your manager, consider escalation. If resistance turns into persistence, non-compliance, or avoidance or hostility, then you need to think about what is it that you need to be doing. If the parent is like that with you, is the child at risk because the parent is, doing that with you? Think about that, because there could be other options that you can, think about. Consider strategy discussions, legal options, and also, seeking police assistance for a welfare check to be done, for example, or legal advice if threats are being made, or even involving the police if threats are being made towards you as a person, or if the aggression is involved, is now physical, you can actually involve the police. So it's really, really important to be mindful about all these insights as well. And remember, engaging, parents is not about winning, but it's about making sure that the child is safe and ensuring that the child's welfare is paramount in whatever engagement you are having with those parents. And I hope with those few nuggets, you've learned something and you'll be able to take it forward. And thank you so much for joining. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe, hit the notification bell so that when I post, you're the first person to know. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you tuning in. Bye-bye.